by the federal government, which is corrupted, which has shirked its constitutional ability without an activation of war. That is the power that we have here in this body. No, we cannot make the United States Congress. So that confirms that the audio is being streamed out to all the places correctly.
Okay.
Coming to you live from the heart of the Free State.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, we're definitely putting the camera in front of my chin today.
You're going to hear me through the TV. I'm just going to have to do that because I failed to prepare. Off.
It feels like the least of our problems today.
Check 1, 2. Nothing. And then we've got your screen, right? Showing, yes.
Yes, and then so I have that, but then I have that one as well, and that one, and I will just go between them.
I got your picture in picture, right? Just like that.
Yep.
Okay. And
Should I move my laptop a little farther so it doesn't come in there? Although then I'm going to look retarded when I'm trying to click it. Hold on. Yep. Yep.
Coming to you live from the heart of the free state of New Hampshire. This is The Independents with Carla Garrick. And now, here's your host, Carla Garrick.
Hi, guys. Hi, and welcome to The Independents. It is Monday evening, and I'm here to give you your Monday report on what is going on in the great free state. So, of course, this is where we track the wins, we check out the weird, and we figure out why it matters to us here in the free state. So today we'll be talking about, first things first, Porc Day tickets are on sale. Please do go and purchase those as soon as possible. We will talk a little bit about Defend the Guard that just passed the House, some meat deregulation. Apparently there's a new spy agency that we're trying to spin up. Guns on campus. Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. Liberty Forum in March. And our executive director here at the Free State Project just appeared in Architectural Digest. So that was kind of cool, too. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes pretty soon. But again, just a reminder, Porc Day is coming up. Porc Day will be the 10th annual celebration of when we triggered the move. So for at least a decade, we have been triggering the statists here in New Hampshire. And I want to show all of them that we are strong, that we are here. That event will be taking place on the 3rd of February at Bedford Tavern and Carriage House out in Bedford. And as I stumble over my words here, it is time to give everyone the fasting warning. So apologies. I am used to doing this one at 5 o'clock, so we're shifting times a little bit, figuring out the studio here. But every time so far we have iterated, and today we are going to try something that has been on my wish list for a long time, but it looks like we are going to figure out how to do it in just a moment. But first of all, I want to set the scene. We have passed Defend the Guard in New Hampshire now twice, and New Hampshire was the first state to pass it in the House. And this is a bill that says, hey, Congress, if you want to send our friends and neighbors and family members to die overseas, you have to do your job and declare war. That is one, it's a constitutionally required step. And basically, since the Korean War, Congress has just been like, maybe no one will notice if we go to war and we don't actually declare it. So we have noticed. We are not going to stand for it anymore. And I'm going to have Alex help me with this clip from Jonah Wheeler. He is a progressive Democrat up at the State House, who I actually think is a wonderful voice in up there because, he doesn't always stand with the Democratic Party. He stands on principle. He's worked with me on several issues. He's been on the right side of a lot of issues. And so here's just a short little speech that he gave on the floor in the State House before Defend the Guard passed. It's about 2-3 minutes. So let's take a look.
By the federal government, which is corrupted, which has shirked its constitutional ability without an activation of war. That is the power that we have here in this body. No, we cannot make the United States Congress do its job. No, we cannot make it so that this country and the gunk that is on the machine is no longer and that it runs efficiently. But what we can do is use the power that we have here over our National Guard and where it is activated to ensure that no soldier in that guard goes to a foreign land without the United States Congress following its constitutional obligation and declaring war. Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to overturn this committee recommendation because none of us should be voting against a piece of legislation or something like this because of fear of a corrupt federal government coming back in retaliation. I am not afraid of losing peas. I am not afraid of losing the federal dollars because I care most as a legislator about the spirit and life of the soldiers who are in the National Guard. And their life is not worth retaliation and fear of retaliation from the federal government. What I would say to them and those of us who are afraid of losing these federal dollars is we should stand united, pass this piece of legislation, and say to the federal government, come get us. Because this, Mr. Speaker, is something where none of us, and I've lost my book here, but Mr. Speaker, it isn't radical to say to the United States Congress that we should follow the words written in the founding documents of this country. And Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what they should do. I am asking here today for you, the membership of this body, to vote to overturn the committee recommendation on this piece of legislation, and I am asking the federal Congress of these United States of America to follow the words that it wrote on paper. I, the federal government.
There we have it, folks. Jonah Wheeler on the floor making an argument in support of Defend the Guard. That bill did pass the House here with a bipartisan majority of 182 to 159. So it wasn't a huge spread, as we see with some of the bills, but it passed, and now it is going on to the New Hampshire Senate, where, you know, I fondly like to say good bills go to die, but hopefully that won't be the case this time. Now, why is this important? It's important because if we cannot expect our government to follow their own rules, then why on earth would we follow their rules ourselves, right? We're in this very fake sort of relationship with the federal government at this stage. Now, for folks who know me, I am a supporter of New Hampshire independence. I am a supporter of any kind of nullification that we can see. And we are going to see more and more and more of that thanks to the effort of Free Staters, Friends of Free Staters, Liberty-aligned people here in New Hampshire. And another great example of that was actually this meat deregulation bill that passed as well last week. That was that actually went viral. I believe Sam Farrington, who is a firebrand, I would say sort of Jonah's compatriot, but you know, on the other side of the aisle, he tweeted it out and it went viral after Massey picked it up. Why is meat deregulation important? Well, if we are making farms here and the farms want to produce things and they want to sell it to just purely to Granite Staters, then why should we be subjected to the crazy rules that come out of DC? So that was really exciting too, to see this meat deregulation happen. Now, while I have Sam Farrington, and that meat deregulation bill, by the way, HB 396, passed, and this was more significant with the window, 214 to 119. So that too received bipartisan support, meaning people from both sides of the aisles don't necessarily have to listen to their parties. They can vote their conscience. And this was one of those great examples. So what's coming up this week in the Free State? We're back in session. There are 1,400 bills. It's busy already. But there are a few calls to action that I want to make sure people know about so that they can either show up or you can sign up online to testify. And I'm going to show you actually, if I can figure this out, how to cast my screen. This is coming up here. There we go. So this is the NH Liberty Alliance. What is that? That's the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which we're all familiar with. They have been doing incredible work. And if you go here to their tab on work, you can go to bill hearings. That is where I am right now. And this will give you the information on the most recent and upcoming liberty critical bill hearings. So clicking on this January 12th, here's the good news and the bad news, guys. All right, so there are 190 hearings in the House this week. This is why we need more Free Staters to move here, because there's so much work to do. But one of the things I was thinking about as I came in for the show tonight is how lucky we are that all these tools now exist, right? Like people are specializing into areas where they're good. And what the NHLA does is they review every single bill in New Hampshire, gets a hearing, it then gets exec. And they look at every bill, and every Wednesday up at the State House, a bunch of volunteers show up with something called the gold standard, and they hand that out so that legislators can vote for pro-liberty bills. So of the 190 hearings taking place this week, the NHLA has come out in support of 6 bills. They oppose 8 bills, and then 25 of the bills are of interest. Now, I'm just going to quickly scroll down the screen to give you guys an idea, right? So here are bills that are of interest, right? So you'll see they delineated according to the position, the bill number, the title of the bill, which can be either illuminating or totally deceptive, depending on whose bill it is, the committee it's in, the day, time, and room, and then a short analysis of what the bill is about. So I'm not going to do a deep dive into all of these. These tools exist now. You can go at any time to nhliberty.org and click on that bill hearing, go through the list, see what you're into, figure it out. You can always send information to your legislators, or you can actually put in that you want to testify, you can sign up, you can send in info. But the big one that is coming up this week is on Wednesday. Sam Farrington's bill, HB 1793, will be coming up. What is this, you ask? Well, it is a constitutional campus carry bill. And basically what Sam has done is he has put in a bill that says, you know what? You're not allowed to ban firearms from college campuses because the Constitution of the United States, but more importantly, the Constitution of New Hampshire should prevail. And so there is no exception that says, oh, well, you have a right to carry, but not here or here or here if it's public property, which these schools are, right? They are taking funds from the government, and in return, that means they actually have to comply with the Constitution. Now, back to what I was saying, where, you know, it's almost like when one group of people doesn't follow the rules, then, you know, the rot just sort of sets in, right? And so this is to correct something that should never have happened. You know, it depends where you stand on the issue, but the point is, the Constitution should apply everywhere where it is public property. And that shouldn't really be controversial. So this hearing will be taking place on Wednesday up at Granite Place in Concord. The bill's number is HB 1793, and it is colloquially called the Campus Carry Bill. but they are accepting testimony, so that could be a way for you to contribute. While I think of it, there was this article that came out in the Dartmouth newspaper. So this is the Independent Student Journalism from Dartmouth. The headline says, New Hampshire House considering legislation permitting firearm possession on college campuses. The Protecting College Students Act would apply to all New Hampshire colleges receiving public funding. So if you don't like this, you can stop it in different ways. You could say colleges shouldn't get public funding anymore, thereby privatizing education and helping along some of the efforts here in New Hampshire. Or you have to concede that the Constitution should actually apply, because otherwise we don't have rule of law. And so I am going to be very curious to see how this one actually plays out. But HB 1739, and this is the second time it's coming in front of the legislature, and it would prohibit restrictions on firearm possession on the campuses of New Hampshire universities. And Sam has been really good about framing this issue as a matter of liberty, which of course it is, because in New Hampshire we have the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, but we also have Article 2 of the New Hampshire Constitution, which provides that all persons have a right to keep and bear arms in defense of themselves, their families, and their property in the state of New Hampshire. So I hope, as a call to action, folks will either sign up in support of this bill or show up at the Criminal Justice Committee hearing on Wednesday, 10 a.m., to come support the campus carry bill. And if this sounds exciting to you, this, of course, is just one more reason to move to the Free State of New Hampshire, because the concentration strategy that we are doing here is working. As the liberties sort of die in all these other states, we are genuinely seeing an expansion of liberty in New Hampshire, and this would just simply be one more example of that. Now, here's one that doesn't seem so pro-liberty, and I gotta say, I was a little surprised to see a person I've worked with on independence bills and on nullification and on reducing the size and scope of the federal government here in New Hampshire is a sponsor on this bill. And so I messaged him right before this, and he was like, oh yeah, you might not like it, but here's my rationale. And I don't put words in his mouth, but first let me explain what the bill is. So this only came to my attention because I got pinged by New Hampshire Journal by Damian Fisher, who I actually choose not to work with because he has written such unflattering stories about Free Staters that I'm just like, well, thanks for putting it on my radar, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to respond back to you. I might, but this is a bill that basically is creating a new intelligence agency in New Hampshire under the auspices of the governor and the New Hampshire Department of Safety, if I have all of my facts straight. It's HB 1605. And just my very cursory look at it, I don't think this is something that's great. The rep I talked to said he was supporting it, mostly one, because he sponsored a lot of bills, but also because he thought, okay, well, if New Hampshire is independent, or if we become, a separate district or a looser federation or whatever that landscape might look like in the future, it might behoove us to have this body that has been established in New Hampshire already. I'm not persuaded, but honestly, I found out about this bill like an hour before the show. So here's what I can tell you. HB 1605. The hearing is on Thursday, the 15th. You can go to the NHLA website to find out exactly when. But I think we should be keeping an eye on that one just to make sure. It may not go anywhere, but it did kind of raise my hackles a little bit. All right, the next thing I want to mention is, guess what, guys? We're getting ripped off by the schools. Everyone knows our property taxes have gone up. You might be like, why is that? Well, here's one reason. Because turns out most school superintendents are paid more than the actual governor of our state. So the SAUs have been putting in a lot of different layers of bureaucracy. Public school enrollment is down, and yet the costs keep skyrocketing. Why is that? Well, amongst other things, because of this. So there's this article on Live Free Press, New Hampshire, and what they did is they actually mapped out the growing number of school districts that are paying their superintendents more than the state's governor. And the comparison is quite striking. So you'll see here on this map that you can take a look at your leisure, but it's the administrative salaries that are greater than the governor's. And then the red dots are all places and districts, school administrative districts that are paying their head honchos more than the governor. Now, to be fair, she makes $146,000, placing her, as it should be, as it is part of the New Hampshire advantage, on the lower end of the spectrum for salaries for governors, even though she does oversee, or the role oversees, the full scope of the state government. But yes, dozens of towns and schools are their salaries are now exceeding that the governor makes. So what gives this issue added weight is how these salaries are paid. The governor's salary is funded through the state budget. Superintendent compensation, by contrast, is paid almost entirely through local education budgets that rely heavily on property taxes. Now, some of you may have seen the show I did maybe at the end of last year, where it's a two-part series. You can find it on my YouTube channel, carlagarrick.com, where I broke down how property taxes in New Hampshire are levied, kind of where they come from. Quick basic example is in most districts, in most areas, in most towns, in most cities, we are now paying more than 50% of our city budget in Manchester goes to the schools. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the little adjective that has to go in front of schools is the failing schools. We are talking about students who cannot read and write. If you cannot read and write, you cannot think properly, and the future cannot just be Candy Crush, guys. All right, so the reality comes as property taxes continue to climb statewide. Even with record levels of state education funding flowing to the school districts, many communities are seeing little relief at the local level. For homeowners, school budgets remain the largest driver of our annual tax increases, and the administrative costs are an increasingly visible part of those budgets. So if you are frustrated, as I am, at getting an increased property tax bill, where you're like, but that pothole I keep driving through is still there. Or in my case, oh, you literally decimated all my plants on my front yard. So what are the services? What are the increased services we're getting for the increased property taxes? And then you realize you're not getting increased services, but you're certainly paying some bureaucrat more money. All right. While I'm catching my breath here, I wanted to mention a few highlights that actually came out of the MAHA movement, the health freedom movement from last week. And there was a lot of good news there. So while Trumpy Trump is off, I don't know, about to like declare war with Venezuela, and we're into regime change and all that nonsense, which again is why something like Defend the Guard becomes so crucial, because it can be a bulwark against whoever's in the White House, whoever's like, oh, like I got to go make beef here or there, right? But the Maha guys under Robert F. Kennedy did some amazing things last week, including tipping, as South Park predicted many years ago, that the food pyramid was upside down. So they have actually flipped it, and Fruit Loops are now not valorized, and things like steak are rightfully where they should be, where most of us should be eating it. So the old dietary rules from the government, that was really, I think, part and instrumental to chronic disease as we see it in this country. Hopefully this change will start to help with healing and maybe bring back actual food. If you're not sure, I know it's the start of the year. Sometimes people are like, I want to change. I want to do things better, but I'm not sure what to do. Here's the simple hack. Just eat whole foods. If you don't know how to cook, for the first month, just eat bacon and eggs made in butter. It doesn't suck. And it will actually help to reset your body. And then you can figure out the next steps from there. The other good news that came out of the Maha movement under HHS was earlier last week, they did change the childhood vaccine schedule under dramatic revisions. They tossed 6 classes of shots out, or put them at least in the optional category, and they reduced the number of injections to be more aligned with the rest of the thinking world. And hopefully we'll start to see some improvements from that as well. All right, what else can I tell you guys? Buy your Porc Day tickets. Also buy your Liberty Forum tickets if you haven't done that already. Liberty Forum is coming up. That'll be March 5th through the 8th at the Grapponi Center in Concord. And we have some new speakers to announce. I heard that Scott Horton, the great anti-war Scott Horton, will be one of our speakers, I think, at one of the dinners, although don't quote me on that. And Andrew Heaton from Reason Magazine, super funny guy. I like he's got charm and sort of like a quirky take on things. He will also be at Liberty Forum, of course, joining some other speakers and joining all of us Free Staters who are here, who are building, who are making changes. There will be the dialogue series as well. All right, what else can I tell you guys? Oh, this was a nice just little thing that happened was the union leader did a article on the home prices in New Hampshire. And, you know, for folks who haven't moved as part of the Free State Project, if you are watching the real estate market in New Hampshire, you realize that scarcity is a thing. And yes, prices have gone up, and we did see some all-time high prices towards the end of last year. But randomly and charmingly, the union leader ran an article, and they used a photo that included the Porcupine real estate logo, and I just saw that, so I thought I would mention it. The last thing I think I want to cover for today, and a reminder, this is the Monday report, so really, I'm trying to sort of lay the groundwork for things that are coming up this week. You know, there's movies over at the Independence Inn. We have various shows. There, of course, is Porc Report at 7 p.m. on Wednesday nights on YouTube. All of those good things. But if you are like, ooh, what's happening tonight? You can always go to fsp.org/calendar. For the last thing, I think here, I'm just going to quickly cover this great little article that came out in Architectural Digest. So that, of course, is a sort of mainstream rag. And they were doing a story on people who, when politics drives you from home, 5 Americans who uprooted their lives because of the state of the nation. And so that's sort of an interesting. Up here, you can see obviously a progressive couple. And I didn't read all the different parts, but I thought I would just highlight what. So that was. So there was an abortion care provider who left Tennessee. That didn't sound like a good fit for her. But here is the part I wanted to focus on. The libertarian state legislator who relocated to New Hampshire. And quote by Eric Brakey, our executive director here at the Free State Project in New Hampshire, a movement to concentrate libertarians and liberty lovers in the great state of New Hampshire. Been around for about 20 years. We have made significant strides. New Hampshire rates as the freest state in the nation. And maybe someday we don't even have to say in the nation. We could just be like, hey, we're the freest little country in the world. But in the meanwhile, quote, Eric, eventually you feel like you're the lone samurai standing against the hordes of statism. So this covers when Eric moved to Maine, and then he tells the whole story about his Ron Paul Revolution involvement. And then it goes into great detail to talk about attending events like Porc Fest, like Liberty Forum. So if you don't live in New Hampshire yet, Liberty Forum is a great event to come to really get a better sense of what the community is and what we are up to here. So Brakey says, Porc Fest, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, is sort of like the libertarian Burning Man. And so it just covers his whole sort of move here. You'll see the beautiful porcupine pin. I have my pin on as well tonight because this is Free State Forward. What is patrons program? For as little as $10 a month, but we'll take a lot more if you're willing to give it. You can become a Porcupine patron. Gives you some perks at our events. It gives you a signal group where you can talk directly to some of the movers and shakers. And it's you knowing that you are actually supporting the efforts that are showing other states that these ideas of freedom work. I've been here in New Hampshire for almost 20 years, and it's remarkable to me to see how other states are, watch what we're doing, sometimes try and implement it, and often fail. And why do they fail? They fail because they don't have a Free State Project. They don't have thousands upon thousands of liberty activists in the true sense of the word, meaning to act, to do, to go do something, to effect change. So if you're not a Porcupine patron, please consider signing up. We run on a shoestring budget, which is making me laugh because my shoelace broke today in my hiking boots. So that is a reminder I need to go get my shoestring sorted out. So I'm going to end with this quote here. It's not all welcome wagons and easy politicking, though. Brakey knows there's a tension primarily with left-wing progressives who would like New Hampshire to be more like its neighboring states. He prescribes a love it or leave it approach. If they want to be in a progressive state, to which we say, if you really don't like the free state, the live free or die spirit of New Hampshire, there's every other state in New England. Now, I'm going to be candid here. I personally am not a huge fan of this sort of like, if you don't like it, leave note. I think it stems from my upbringing and having heard that argument a lot of times. Maybe I'm hypersensitive because I'm an immigrant. But there is some validity to say that, look, the flavor of New Hampshire with its slogan, with its logo, is live free or die. It's pretty there in your face, right? So if that sort of flavor of mind your own business, live and let live. If that ethos doesn't really resonate with you, if you think actually you should control what your friends, family, neighbors are putting in their bodies or, doing in their bedrooms or doing in their boardrooms, then maybe the Free State just isn't for you. And I hear Vermont is very similar in weather and geographic topography to New Hampshire, but a little more, maybe up your alley if live free or dies doesn't feel good for you. All right, so the last things to remind you of today is that you need to buy your Porc Day tickets. Where can I do that, Carla? It's a long URL. I don't remember all of it, but it starts with community.fsp.org and then put in Porc Day X. That should get you there. Tickets, general admission tickets, $50. VIP, $100. We're going to have some heavy apps. There will be drink tickets. For the VIPs, you will have some kind of keepsake and figuring out the final bells and whistles. But I hope to see everyone at Porcupine Day, the 10th annual celebration of when we triggered the move, thereby triggering the statists. And I will be back here again on Wednesday for the Independence from the Manch studio, and then again on Friday evening for a little after hours here at the Quill. Hope to see everyone and wishing you all peace, love, and understanding. Take care.